Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Thursday, October 1st. We're getting into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We ended up giving out a look at a line in the NFL, so check out that video if you have not done so before, because of the fact that the play hasn't happened yet, and you can still pick up some nice value on it. But for the sake of this video, looking through the actual betting card, you have some baseball stuff going on tomorrow. Really not much else. Of course, NFL is going to be going on, but it's going to be between the Jets and the Broncos. And needless to say, I was trying to find a play on that one. That was pretty tough to come by. I know that we're going to be talking about that with Scott Seen tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to that joint show. NBA, you have the Lakers dominating Game 1. That's not going to be taking place tomorrow. You have the MLB playoffs, which I'm going to be talking about with Scott Steen as well tomorrow. So for that reason, we're going to be doing a look at line here on the upcoming UFC card, which will be taking place on Saturday, and it will be UFC on ESPN, Holm versus Aldana. So that's actually going to be on regular ESPN, no pay-per-view, no nothing. So everybody get these fights for free. And we're going to be looking at a two-pick money line parlay here on the card. I know that last week I ended up doing something differently. I went back to the old formula, and we ended up just covering a bunch of fights, going through the plays, etc. And I said I was going to stick with it. Unfortunately, I then looked at this card, and I realized how just awful it is from a value perspective. You have a decent amount of entertaining fights, should see a decent amount of knockouts and stoppages, but as a whole, really not many fights I was interested in going to the window with. So for that reason, I decided to just break it down with a two-pick moneyline parlay that I do like a lot, and that's going to be the lone play here in the video. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in. We're going to talk about the first fight here, which will be between Casey Kenny and Haley Aladdin, and we're going to be going with the favorite here at Kenny at minus 275 here on Fox Bet for the first leg of the parlay. A couple reasons why I like Kenny in the spot. First of all, he's 14-2 in his MMA career. He's been great in the UFC as he is 3-1. His one loss coming against Dvalishvili, who's an absolute monster in the bantamweight division. But Kenny's very good. He was able to upset Ray Borg, which was an impressive win. He was able to beat Manny Bermudez, which is very difficult to do because Bermudez is 15-2 in his MMA career, and he ended up losing to Casey Kenny. So Kenny had a nice win there, ended up losing to Dvalishvili, which is understandable because Dvalishvili should be fighting for a title within the next year or two. And then he responded by absolutely demolishing Luis Smolka by first-round submission in the first round back in May. So he's been a very solid fighter for his entire career with a 14-2 record, and the UFC has been very good as well. Meanwhile, the opponent that he's going to be going up against here in Aladdin just isn't that great. 14-7 overall. He is on a 4-fight winning streak. He has won each of his first 2 fights in the UFC, but his level of competition has been subpar at best. He was able to win his first fight by each of his first 2 fights by decision, but if he ended up beating Ryan Benoit by split decision, and Benoit's not a very good fighter. He is 10-7 overall. I'm talking about Benoit. So the fact that he went to a split with Benoit's not really a good sign. Plus, he tends to fight in flyweight, Aladdin, which means he will be moving up in weight class to fight against Kenny here, which explains why Kenny is such a huge favorite. Kenny is I don't want to say he's a contender in the bantamweight division because I think that he has a long ways to go, but I think he's worthy of being a ranked fighter in the bantamweight class. And I think that Aladdin moving up in weight to face a guy who has dominated other quality bantamweights in the past, I just think Aladdin's going to be walking into one-way traffic here. He's a decent overall fighter, but Kenny, second-degree black belt judo, I should say, I just think it's kind of going to ragdoll him, especially with him being used to fighting at that usual weight class that he is at the bantamweight at 135. I simply think that Aladdin's going to struggle in this new weight class against a very quality bantamweight fighter. And I think that Kenny, despite being minus 275, that's on the relative cheap side, is I think that he should close around minus 300, even higher, because I do think that he will win. Do I know the method he's going to win by? No. I think he can win a variety of ways. He's not really much of a knockout guy, but he should be able to land enough takedowns in order to win by decision, and he should also be able to get enough transitions to potentially get a submission in. But either or, I think Kenny should do enough to win the fight. At minus 275, and that is too low of a price. And the second pick in the 2-pick parlay is going to be on Dusko Todorovic, as he's going to be taking on Daquan Towson, and that price on Todorovic is at minus 300. And both those on Fox Bet pay out to a 2-pick parlay of roughly minus 122. Now, a couple reasons why I like the favorite in this spot. First of all, the line itself is pretty telling because of the fact that Towson does have UFC experience and Todorovic does not. Todorovic is an overwhelming favorite in the spot, which makes me believe that it's just simply going to be one-way traffic, and they are feeding Towson to Todorovic. Now, the reason why I feel that way, Todorovic is undefeated. He is a 9-0, although he only fought in the Dana White Contender Series and has not actually appeared in a UFC fight per se. He has some impressive wins outside of the UFC. For example, he ended up fighting in the Serbian Battle Championship, which is a pretty random organization. But the person he was able to beat in that fight was extremely impressive. He was able to beat Michael Pereira. Some of you might know him. He's the Brazilian UFC fighter now who does backflips in the octagon and does a bunch of random stuff. He won by knockout. Or he won by submission, I should say, a couple weeks ago. Either way, he's still a very solid fighter. And Todorovic absolutely smacked him, knocked him out in the first round. And I know for a fact that at 9-0, he's going up against Daquan Towson, who is 0-3 in his UFC career, which means that if he loses this fight, he's probably going to be cut. And the fact that they're sending an undefeated fighter making his UFC debut against the guy who's lost each of his last 3 fights and all 3 of his UFC fights as a whole makes me believe that they're just feeding Towson to get destroyed just to make Todorovic look good. And I think Todorovic should win this fight pretty easily. Todorovic is young. He's an up-and-comer, could potentially turn into a contender. And I think that Towson's on his way out of the UFC naturally. So I do think that Todorovic should be able to do enough in order to win the fight. And I think that he could win a variety of ways. Could be by knockout, could be by submission. But at 26, he definitely is the better fighter in this matchup. And I think that Towson is going to get smacked. So for that reason, the 2-pick moneyline parlay once again for the UFC Holm versus Aldana card is going to be on Casey Kenny on the money line, as well as Dusko Todorovic on the money line. And that 2-pick parlay pays out a roughly minus 122 on Fox Bet at time of recording of 3:09 a.m. Eastern Time. That's an installment of Scott's Selections. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.